So as I said, this was taken from the Discord, from the 2v2 event, and today we have two, I think this is one of the first round matches. We have the forces of Lindor and the Elves and Rune going up against the Dwarves and Gondor, and already we are seeing a pretty interesting setup from the Dwarves and Gondor. They're already looking like they're going for a very, very defensive formation compared to kind of more of the open lines of the Elves and Rune, so we'll have to see how this formation does develop. Maybe they were just kind of setting up, or maybe they ran out of time and didn't form everything else up they wanted to. If you take a look at the army comps, if you guys are interested in what both sides are bringing, Rune have a lot of their locate rim macemen, probably one of the better stable frontline infantrymen. They're just a really, really solid frontline and can do some serious work and just reliable. They're just as reliable as the Gondorian sword infantry, so very, very solid indeed. Rune also have 3 units of these Warlord of Rune, some of the best shock infantry in the game as well, so definitely a nice unit backing them up and just being thrown into combat when the gaps need to be broken. We also do have some of these Bane of the Steppe. I believe these Bane of the Steppe are getting nerfed in the next patch because again they're really, really strong, so they're going to be getting thrown forward again. A very, very solid unit of infantry. And then we also have some of the amazing looking infantry over on this side right here. Again, one of my favorite looking kind of styles for the runic forces. These are the forces from more of the southern tribes, I believe. They look great. I mean, it's Vavargi, something along those lines. But either way, they look amazing. Then if we take a look over on the far left-hand side, we can see the Elves on their front line. They have 3 units of these Noldrin archers. Obviously very expensive, but extremely elite and can put down a lot of fire at range as well. Then we also have some more of these two-handed sword infantrymen, and that's going to mainly be the makeup of Lindor, because they don't have their full roster yet. I believe they're getting the rest of their roster in the newest patch that will be coming out fairly soon. So until then, they kind of have to just rely on these two-handed sword infantry and their cavalry as well. So I'm really looking forward to the new patch, because the Elves obviously are absolutely amazing. They also have a couple units of spearmen as well, but you don't want to be bringing too many of these guys because, again, they don't really kind of do the damage you need to. So, yeah, these guys are going to be making up for that. But if you take a look at the other side of things, and this is starting to look a bit like a new box, I'm not going to lie. I guess new boxes weren't disallowed in the tournament, so it's gonna be interesting. Honestly, I don't think new boxes are good because you just focus all your forces like here, and then all these units all the way around are doing literally nothing. But we'll have to see. This is going for like some sort of like Chinese Three Kingdoms type of formation, you know. But anyway, for the Dwarves, they're obviously going to have Erebor crossbowmen on the front line, supported by some spear guards of Erebor. We've got some Gondorian archers in the back. Over on the far left-hand side, we have some Citadel guard with more spears. So basically a lot of spears scattered throughout these forces. Where are their killing capabilities? I guess they got a lot of Grimhammers here as well. The artillery is going to be doing some decent damage. Yeah, the Grimhammers are going to be pretty nice as well. But yeah, overall, I don't know, like, this is obviously, you may look at this and be like, oh yeah, this is really strong, but there's not really a lot of killing power, honestly, for this new box whatsoever. And I don't, like, I think this new box is going to get absolutely rinsed, honestly. Like, obviously they can't use the cavalry, but even still, like, they don't particularly need to use this cavalry because they have a really good setup. Unfortunately, actually no, they have 2 units of these good bowmen, so it's not like the Elves and that don't have great bowmen either. Balance of power is slightly in favor of the defending new box, but yeah, I mean, shock infantry are going to rip this apart, like they really, really are. If they just like focus all their men in on these small spots, that's going to be extremely deadly. Obviously, unfortunately, these cavalry are going to be a little bit less effective, but all it takes is one big gap to appear, and then they can really, really move on. But yeah, as I said, this is a pretty disgusting setup right now, and I imagine this was probably banned in the tournament afterwards. But hey, we've got this battle, and I'm interested to see how they approach it. It's always fun seeing battles like this, and then being like, well, that's a bit snide of one side, but I guess it is what it is. It is a tournament. You got to play to win, and it's always interesting seeing the other team take it apart, because I think they definitely can, as the trebuchet comes in, getting a direct hit onto the Noldrin swords and killing a handful of these poor elves. They've lived over 10,000 years and they just get hit by a trebuchet, and that is it. That's actually killed a lot of them right there as well. Yeah, 11 of them right there. That's absolutely brutal. But the first thing, like, this is how I would do it, and we'll see if it kind of plays out the same. First things first, you want to burn the artillery immediately with all your archers. Get your archers in range, burn this artillery. That takes out a big advantage that they have. because the longer this artillery can shoot, the worse it's going to be. Then you take apart the missiles, probably focusing down the heavy crossbowmen. Then you probably have a front like here. You probably just attack like 4 of these units with all your shock infantry, and you wait until the enemy have to commit more and more of their men. When they do, you then start kind of bringing shock infantry around other sides, and then slowly they will break. Because again, as you can see, you basically have all this cavalry fretting. As soon as the enemy decide to move away units, then that's when your cavalry can pounce. You just have to be extremely patient with them. It does also seem like this cavalry is getting pretty close and going in for a very nice charge. I mean, again, this is a new box. This should not be happening. Like, you should not be losing your men like this. But a nice move it here by the attackers. I call them the attackers. This is a field battle. Unfortunately, that was an awful charge, but hopefully they'll be able to kill a handful of these crossbowmen before they can retreat. And I guess you just try and create gaps and pull through against this, because again, pull throughing is definitely one of them situations where it's okay in some situations and it's not so okay in other situations. Like, it's really like player digression. But this time, it's like, screw that. You're going to form a new box. I'm going to be spamming that right click to get through your new box because, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Also, you do lose a lot of men. Like, I think people give pulling through a really bad rap, and a lot of the time, you lose a lot of men when you do it. I think it's fairly well balanced for the most part, but I guess sometimes it can be abused. Yeah, so obviously, we are seeing the attackers now getting in, and yeah, as I said, I think these bows will immediately be setting ablaze this artillery because you can kill it very quickly with just a couple volleys of archer fire. So just moving in, and then yeah, as I said, just get like a couple units. Like, the worst thing you can do here is attack the entire circle. I think you really want to focus down a few sections of the field. And there you go. Yeah, the archer fire coming in, immediately starting to take down this this trebuchet, I believe. Or maybe even just killing the archers. I don't know, maybe they want to go for something else. And there we go, the elves charging in against the dwarven new box. We are starting to see the lines clash now, as the swords go clinging down onto their opponents. And as I said, like, these arable spears are going to really struggle. Like, these Noldrin swords are very good, let alone against spears. So yeah, I mean, like these spears aren't going to do great, and that's why I don't think this is particularly amazing. Because the thing is, the spears are not a killing force. So they're never going to be able to outperform the maces, even from the front or the Noldrin swords or whatever you're fighting. They're never going to win directly, like, head on. Which kind of defeats the purpose of the noob box. Like, the noob box is famous in, like, Rome 2 or whatever, because you use pikes to noob box, which are going to win frontally. But the problem is, the Dwarven spears aren't going to win frontally. They're spears. They're just there for holding. They're never going to win an engagement against other sword infantry or shock infantry. They're there basically to keep your enemy in place whilst you do other things. And they are reinforcing with more swords, which do have that killing power, which might be good. But if I was playing these Noldrin swords right now, I'd be like licking my lips. I'd be like, there's a lot of juicy kills here to be had. You can see the elven archers really coming in now. Obviously, all the fire arrows looking to set ablaze this artillery, which I think will be occurring fairly soon. Yeah, you can already see one being set on fire right there. And yeah, the lions are just kind of hitting in, and you can see, like, look how quickly these spears are going down. A lot of these spears already losing 27 men, the one right here, and that's going to really start to rack up kills, and it's also going to really start to create gaps in the enemy line, and they can quite easily use that. Obviously, they're mainly focusing on these crossbows. Honestly, you don't really even have to kill these crossbows right now, because the crossbows can't shoot up and over, so they can't actually hit anything right now. These crossbows are literally useless, because they can't shoot over and kill anything. So honestly, if they wanted to, they could just get all of their archers and just start killing a couple units of these Gondor spears from the back. It honestly would be a really good plan. Because yeah, as I said, like, them crossbows are doing literally nothing right now. Another caliber piece is going down. But yeah, they could just get all their archers. Like, these elven archers would tear one of these spears apart. And then all of a sudden, you're having to commit, like, a unit of swords over here. Swords can be hit by cavalry from the front very effectively, especially from the heavier shock cavalry from, like, say, the elves. They can be hit very effectively from that frontal engagement and do some serious damage. So let me just get a good angle of Attila. It's so funny that Attila has a good angle, like a good side. It's almost like it's a model or something. Yeah, make sure you catch me on my good side. Yeah, that's Total War Attila in a nutshell. Looks good from one side and awful from the other. So we are seeing some more reinforcements thrown in by the dwarves, bringing up some of their heavier kind of sword and shield infantry, or axe and shield infantry, which is still pretty effective. But yeah, the players playing against this new box are doing exactly what I would do. They're focusing down a few sections. They're throwing in their cavalry to kill these crossbows who came out, obviously landing a little bit on these spears. But yeah, they're not going to be able to deal with that. They obviously already basically taken care of all the artillery, and now their archers are continuing just to hammer away. And again, these crossbows are literally useless right now. They're just getting shot to pieces. There are still a nice amount of missile fire coming in here, and Gondor have managed to bring their archers to bear quite effectively against the shock of Rune. They're going to quickly get out of that range ASAP. Honestly though, just throwing it in would not be a bad idea again, because these archers are not going to be able to effectively hit them. And yeah, luckily they don't get one more volley off. I think they just, yeah, I got one more volley off. That's going to be painful. Oh, that's a lot of casualties. Not too many casualties, but that's a lot of HP probably gone from that unit. They do manage to get out of there though, and saving that shock until a little bit later is not a bad idea whatsoever, as the elves do continue to push in. Yeah, I don't even know, like, these 4 archers are pretty scary. Obviously the crossbows have been absolutely annihilated, and it'd be pretty interesting to see what their plan is, whether it's just to try and maybe focus on a few units of these with archer fire, which honestly I do not think is a bad idea. There's obviously a lot of other sword infantry kind of scattered around from Gondor, ready to commit it, but you want to try and just get them to commit as many men. Obviously sniping generals as well. Screw it at this point. Yeah, 100% snipe the dwarven general. He's a unit of Grimhammers, so I would 100% kill him. I would bring that down for sure. And you can already start to see like gaps appearing. Like that, you could easily pull through this and take pretty much no casualties. Because there's like no one here, right? You can literally just form up into a marching column and get your soldiers through this gap. There is a clear gap there, so pulling through is nothing to be shunned at. Unfortunately, though, the dwarves have, the elves don't really have much in the way of soldiers to throw through that gap. But even just getting cavalry in there, start causing some mayhem. You're going to lose the cavalry for sure, but still not a bad idea. Again, obviously, you could obviously communicate to your ally as well to start committing men through here as well. Would not be a bad idea. Does seem like, though, the Spearguard of Erebor moving in here and defending this gap quite effectively. So again, they have the opportunity there, didn't quite see it, or didn't quite seize it, I should say, and able to set themselves up. The rest of the artillery is still just being shot down from the enemy. And yeah, I was going to take out these Onagers, which is not bad. I mean, the Onagers have racked up 83 kills, which is good. But yeah, they are really going hard on the enemy general right now, which I do not think is a bad idea whatsoever. You bring yourself into this situation by actually noob boxing up. Your generals are going to get sniped. He's going to try and protect him, though, by putting some Gondorian swords up here, which, again, is a really good idea to cover your soldiers. More archer fire coming up as well. Just trying to set these last 2 artillery pieces ablaze. There's only 1 left now. So that should allow them to focus their ammunition elsewhere. Because obviously, again, as well, they are running out of ammunition bit by bit. And yeah, none of these units, I mean, this unit's been hit pretty hard by missile fire. You can quite easily break that. Because I think the main goal is just to get them spears out of there as best as you can. There you go. The artillery is now being completely gone. The defending Gondorian forces, though, still have plenty of ammunition left. So they could really throw themselves at an enemy unit, and it's really nice holding that ammunition for the Gondorian archers on the in the noob box, because you're basically scaring off the entirety of Rune's shock infantry, and that's very good shock infantry. So you really want to hold it back, and you want to value it pretty heavily. And you can see it's all the way back there, just not really doing anything too scary. What's the archer fire focusing on now? Yeah, into the back. This is again another really tricky situation. Now you leave yourself really vulnerable, and again the attacking players are doing good work here, good prioritization with their missiles. They're obviously using their archer fire to focus down a couple of these units by hitting them in the back, trying to create gaps from the enemy lines. And really trying to keep the enemy at bay. But the elves are starting to run out of infantry. Obviously, there's a unit of runic swords here, the Loke Rim, that can probably reinforce here and probably need to reinforce here. There you go, just moving in. But a lot of the spears are now eventually losing this battle. You're also getting the cavalry moving in here as well. A lot of the archer fire focusing in on the back of these guys. Again, it wouldn't be necessarily a bad idea just to pull through, like in a few of these situations. Like there's a gap here. Probably couldn't get through that gap without losing too many men. Cavalry coming in now as well. Unfortunately, though, the cavalry really does just back off and just really break off from the spearmen. The spearmen are literally like a brick wall. So, oh man, that's a really unfortunate charge right there. Yeah, I definitely found out from my time of playing that you're really never going to be able to break spears from the front with cavalry. It's just how the game functions, and they really do put up a very good fight. Sword infantry, 100% you can do this to sword infantry, but the cavalry is literally like spearmen are just such a brick wall because they get a massive boost to their density, so they don't get kind of knocked down. But still some really nice kind of prioritization from the missile fire right there. Trying to obviously hit these guys in the back. And I think that's exactly what we need to keep on doing. Unfortunately, though, their ammunition is running very, very low. And I don't know, it pains me to say this, but I think the new box is looking pretty good right now. Honestly, they still have a lot of their very good reserve units left. I think it'd be a really good idea, honestly, to actually start committing some of these archers back here. I know I said that you only want to focus down a few sections of the new box, but you want to try and keep their reserves busy. You want to try and keep their reserves stuck in so that when, hopefully, when this kind of front line here breaks, they can't just commit men back from their rear guard. And yeah, there's obviously a lot of points right now. Also, wouldn't it be a bad idea just to mount this cavalry? I imagine the cavalry does a pretty good job, especially some of these lancers here, and definitely the Bane of the Steppe. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to dismount the cavalry and just throw it in. Also, I'm very surprised, again, that the archers aren't focusing on this horse. Because I guess he wouldn't be doing a ton of damage to it, but still racking up kills on these guys would be good. I guess they feel like it's kind of useless right now. But again, I don't think that cavalry is always going to be useless. I think that cavalry is going to be pretty valuable at some point in the battle. So just getting some kills on it early, I think, is a pretty good idea. Let's start the camera a little bit as well, so we can enjoy it to the full extent to go around this new box. Do let me know as well in the comments, what would you guys do against a formation like this? If you came up against a formation like this, whether it's in a tournament, what would you guys do? Would you do what the players are doing right now? Would you approach it differently? Obviously as well, keep in mind that you obviously never would have seen this formation. Like you wouldn't go into a battle expecting your opponents to do this. Also, I'm very excited as well for the new Dwarven update that's hopefully coming soon. A bunch of new dwarves from Eren Lewin, I believe, are being added in. Maybe it is more dwarves from the Iron Hills. I don't think it is, though. Or sorry, from the Lonely Mountain. I think maybe it's Iron Hill dwarves. No, is it Iron Hill? I can't remember. Either way, there's some really, really cool Dwarven models in development. And I can't wait, because dwarves are one of my favourite factions for sure. And getting some more assets for them, more units to mess around with, would be absolutely great. So you're really starting to see the new box kind of crumbling now. A lot of this front line is running very low on men. It really, really is. And the cavalry is just hammering and anviling. They are starting to make a little bit of a dent into the spear line, but it's not going to do anything. They really need to try and focus this down a little bit more. With a few more men, maybe just throwing the archers now and let the archers, because even these elven archers are really strong in melee combat, so I think they'll be enough to break through a wounded spear unit. But as you can see, like, the cracks are appearing in this new box. It really is. And all you need is one crack to appear, and you get your cavalry flying through. Again, though, the attackers, the elves, are going to be struggling as well here, and obviously because they've invested so much in the way of cavalry, I think they're going to be really, really struggling. And they got a bit of a pull through there, just trying to get your cavalry through that line. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. I think they honestly just need to dismount their cavalry and throw it in, because I think the dismounted cavalry will win against these guys. Especially like the Bane of the Steppes. Like, even though there's only, 60 of them in a unit, and they'll probably get shot by missiles, I honestly would just get my horses, like here, dismount them and charge in, because I'm pretty sure, even though they're outnumbered by 100 men, Bane of the Steppe, they're that elite that they will kill them. And really, right now, it's up to Rune to win this battle, because they are really the only ones with a lot of men left. The elves have really kind of blown their load. They're obviously extremely elite, so they don't really get access to as many units as their evil counterpart. Now the Archer Fire is coming in. Yeah, trying to focus down, obviously, all the Warlords of Rune. If they can get some of them Warlords of Rune, though, in effectively, that'd be pretty good. Where are the other units? There's one over there on that far right-hand side. That's about it, right? And the last couple units are being thrown in as well. Does seem like these spears are breaking up, allowing the Shipwright Noble General to move in. And yeah, there's still a lot of archers for Gondor in this new box still remaining. And the Warlords of Ruin are just trying to get themselves stuck in without taking back as many casualties. Unfortunately, they have taken quite a lot. Also, it might actually be a really good idea to retreat back your entire battle line. Honestly, like, because, like, this front line does not have enough spears to cover it, I don't think. Maybe they do. Maybe they do with reinforcements coming in. But yeah, like, just retreat back here. You want to basically want to fall back where there's no spears and let your cavalry move in. Because wherever that is, the cavalry will decimate it. You can just see the constant hammer and anvils. Like, as I said, you see that's basically like a brick wall they're charging into. They take more casualties. You charge into swordsmen, it's a completely different story. So if they could just charge their cavalry into these guys, like here, with these 2 units of swords, they would kill them very quickly. Same like over here as well. There's not really any spears whatsoever. Like, the enemy line, I don't think has enough spears to defend everything. They're just trying their best to break through, and they are dealing casualties to the spearmen, but obviously the spearmen are so much cheaper than them. I don't know, I think gaps are going to appear, and it's going to give them the opportunity to move in. Also as well, you don't really want to be pulling back your soldiers as well from combat, so it's kind of understandable. But yeah, there's definitely opportunities to utilize their cavalry, because obviously there's so much money invested in that cavalry. So you're seeing more and more of the swords being thrown in. I don't know, balance of power is still really even. So both sides have similar amounts of men. It's just obviously there's so much gold invested in this cavalry. Maybe setting up a formation like here would be good, like coming into the side of these guys. I imagine that's probably what these guys are doing now. I'm going to set up here and then charge into the side. Yeah, exactly what they're doing. And this is going to do damage. Like, this is where they start to do damage and create a pretty decent gap. Because there's no spears here. Or if there are spears, there's very few of them. So this is exactly what they need to do. And they're putting a lot of pressure on just a few of these templates. And you can really see, like, the Gondor infantry is buckling under this pressure. And this is why I say they maybe should use some of their archers on dealing with this. Because, like, oh man, one cavalry just getting absolutely rinsed. But yeah, you can see the damage being inflicted on these Erebor Axe Warriors. And like, this is where the new box really comes undone, is you have to keep the box, you know, as newbie as possible. And you can see some of the infantry starting to pull out as well, just giving the cavalry more chance to do this and come flying in. And like, look at that, that's created a big old gap there. I wouldn't be surprised if they just threw all their cavalry. Yeah, exactly, here we go. This is what we're expecting to see and have happen right into the archers. I don't know if it'd be better to go into more of the infantry, honestly. Because you can try and break them. Like, look at this and see if there's any like low tier morale that could be broken. Yeah, and then right into the back here, and you can see that this is where it really comes undone. Is, you know, like towards the end game of the battle, this cavalry just starts harassing, charging, creating gaps. You can see more cavalry moving in. Again, they have kind of filled up this gap, but with such little infantry. And boom, one of the enemy generals have gone down. Where? I mean, that's the Dwarven general. That's going to be really bad because there's a lot of units that are scaring me. This cavalry is just playing pinball right now. It started off when it broke through on 90 kills. It's now on over 150. And yeah, it's just coming in. You can see the new box trying to reform up, and the cavalry tries to punish it, unfortunately not being able to. And leaving this one unit in its rear, quickly able to get eaten up by the cavalry. So again, falling back. But it's not really helped because quite quickly, you are immediately seeing the vultures moving around, and this huge gap is being created right now, and the new box is just being pushed in from every single side. And quite frankly, they need to form up a line here. That's exactly what they're doing. The cavalry is immediately moving in. They basically just need to mirror this line. And luckily, they do form up. Oh, bam! That's a huge hit onto the Citadel Guard, throwing so many of them to the ground. They need to pull through here. Don't retreat. Keep on going into the abyss, my mighty warriors. And look at that. So many of these Citadel Guard going down, losing over 40 men of the unit, causing a huge mass row. And wow, that has really broken up the back line right there. And I think this is where the new box really crumbles, as cavalry can finally come into play. You can immediately start to see them going through these gaps, pouncing onto the Citadel Guard, and then the cavalry just pulling its way through, causing so much harassment. And yeah, as I said, like, I think this is where the line really breaks apart, and you're just like basically not able to fight the enemy on any guard whatsoever. Yeah, you can already start to see as well a lot of the Citadel Guard forming a square formation, basically already admitting that the circle has been breached, and it just basically allows all this cavalry, just waiting in the wings, the ability to move in. And this is fundamentally why the noob box sucks so much, is because this will inevitably happen when you don't win your combats from the front, and you won't win your combats from the front with spearmen. The spearmen basically are there to silence the cavalry, but yeah, inevitably this will happen. Gaps will start to appear because your spearmen just aren't doing enough damage. And you know, obviously in like Rome Total War, you have pikemen who you basically can't assail from the front, but spearmen you can. And honestly, spearmen are only ever really good against killing cavalry and just holding, delaying the enemy. And you can already start to see this cavalry just running amok in the back ranks. And yeah, this is going to be GG. So a very, very fun attempt there by the new box to try its best to hold. But yeah, the attackers played that smart. They played it well, and they approached it, and yeah, I think took it down pretty systematically, which is always good to see. And just bided their time. You know, a lot of people might get frustrated and kind of blow their load, which is the cavalry too early, but you can already start to see the cavalry moving in, and they've racked up like 300 kills on a lot of these guys. They're going to go around and basically mop up the rest of this battle, and with the rest of the units getting committed in as well now, it's definitely GG here. A pretty decisive victory, honestly, in the end. I didn't say decisive, it was definitely a Pyrrhic victory. It was a close one for sure. But Rune definitely had a lot of men left, and I definitely like that. I think if the attackers would have brought 2 elite factions, they would have struggled. They definitely need the numbers of like medium tier infantry to turn this one in, and Rune's the perfect faction for that. Another good faction would have maybe, I don't know, but I was gonna say maybe another good faction would have been Mordor. Because them half-orc axes do some serious damage, but Mordor don't really have the archer capacity to do what they needed to do in this battle, and their infantry still aren't really that good, so they would have still have struggled to kill a large amount of the spear guard. You needed someone like Rune who had really decent medium tier infantry, and that definitely came in clutch this day, and ended up winning them the battle. There are still a few more engagements though. This battle does go on for another 30 seconds, so let's just make our way over to these final square formations. But unfortunately, it's going to be the last stand for sure. They're going to be running extremely low on the enemies. Warlords of Rune as well are going to be just cutting these guys down to size very effectively, and even the square formation is not going to save them, as then their numbers do start to drop, and yeah, just basically hundreds of men are now fleeing from the battle. So yeah, really well played. An interesting formation there by the defenders. I keep on calling them defenders because they basically were the defenders. But yeah, really interesting defender set up by the dwarves of the Gondor, and nice move in there by the elves and also by the forces of Rune as well. And you can see like this cavalry was shut out for the entire game until them last moments, and they got a lot of kills. 329 kills in that unit. Bane of a Step with over 300. This unit has basically its entire unit left remaining. So yeah, really interesting play indeed, and unfortunately just not enough. Too many spears, but you needed the spears if they were going to do what they did, for sure. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this battle. If you guys want to see more of these tournament battles, then make sure to go ahead and drop a like and a comment down below. Let me know what type you'd like to see next, because there are a few more replays in their Discord. Make sure you join the Rise of Mordor Discord, and I'll see you guys in the next one.